News Radio WAM 1180. Next news at 12:30. Breaking news when it happens anytime. The Rush Limbaugh Show starting now on News Radio WAM 1180.
Well, I don't know what they expected. Did they just expect for 1 second that Trump was not going to fight back in this election stuff? I mean, they really think Trump's just hunkered down in the White House, cowering away in the corners, afraid to death of coming out of the room or whatever. They found 3,000 more screwy ballots in Georgia. The way they have been attempting Republicans in Wayne County, Michigan is... it's just so typical, and it's just a shame that it continues to work. Threatening them with racism and all this stuff, it's just, you get tired of it. And you get tired of it working, and you get tired of people being afraid of it. And yeah, I can say that, my friends, because I've been accused of all this for 30 years, and I've never let it stop me from doing what I want to do or think what I think or say what I believe. And other people in politics, it's just not that way. Republicans being accused of racism, man, that's all you got to do is shut them up. And many of them will just turn around and become compliant with whatever the left wants to do. I'll explain what I'm talking about here in due course. It's great to have you here, folks, always. Middle of the week, Wednesday. Telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882. Folks, we have... and I've talked about this a lot because this is not the kind of thing you reach around, pat yourself on the back about. But this program that we started is going so well that I have to mention that we have 15 more checks going out to police and families of law enforcement. We received the most wonderful nominations for the Support Our Heroes campaign that we're running at rushlimbaugh.com on the website. As I say, we've not made a big deal of it. I've mentioned it a couple of times. But we have, the stories are just heartwarming that come in from people nominating friends of theirs or people they know who are in law enforcement or families of law enforcement who've lost members of their family. Some of the nominations are just beautiful. It's the Support Our Heroes campaign. We ran it this year, and because of the tremendous support from the audience, you all, Catherine and I have been able to hear about incredibly heroic police and their families, and we have been able to send contributions to them from our little foundation. And it's been great to do, to be able to do. And because, you know, the cops are being dumped on, the police have been dumped on ever since the virus hit and all that. George Floyd's murder, well, some people don't think it was a murder, but the whole Antifa Black Lives Matter thing, defund the police. It was outrageous. It was tragic. It was silly. But it was real to the people who were being attacked. And it was largely in blue states, largely, not exclusively, but largely in blue states and blue cities where the cops were being ripped to shreds. They would become targets, and it became okay to shoot them. In fact, one of the most prolific ways that African Americans, well, I'll save that for later, because it dovetails with another item I want to mention in the program today. So I just wanted to mention this. I want to thank all of you who have sent in the nominations for our little program, the Support Our Heroes campaign that we ran this year. And we have been able to send it. 15 more checks are going out. Now, again, if you haven't heard about it, we haven't made a big deal about it because it's not how we do, but the nominations have just kept pouring in. And we wanted to acknowledge them today. It's the Support Our Heroes campaign. That's what's so great, because you all out there have participated in it and made it possible by telling us who that you know in law enforcement deserves recognition. And so we've been able to do what we can to assist in that area. You know, Ladies and gentlemen, when Barack Hussein Obama was president, you remember the Democrats wanted leftists at Thanksgiving dinner to push Obama's agenda. You remember this? I do remember this last night. Obama's president, and they sent out talking points. They published talking points on their fundraising sites. And they gave them to leftists because leftists can't think of this stuff on their own. So they published the talking points, and they were supposed to, at Thanksgiving dinner, they were supposed to assault conservative family members with the Obama agenda. That's what Thanksgiving was for. That was its primary purpose during the Obama years. So what do we have now? Now that we have Donald Trump a demonstrable success, the Democrats are canceling Thanksgiving. Democrat governors are canceling Thanksgiving using the fear of the COVID-19 virus as the reason why you should not have Thanksgiving. Now, we know what's really going on, and it really is going on, folks. It is an assault on all of the traditions and institutions that define America, that define this country. They are under assault. They have been for a while. They are under assault by the entirety of the Democrat Party. You can't say that there is a wing or a part of the Democrat Party which, no, I don't sign on to that. They may be out there, but they're silent as they can be. So now, the Democrats do not want families to gather. The Democrats do not want families to compare notes. Much of the news has been censored or buried thanks to Facebook, the Rasputin guy at Twitter. They know Trump supporters are not going to sit quietly for the BS lectures that come from Obama supporters. Don't tell me they're Biden supporters. He doesn't even know who he is. They know Trump supporters are not going to sit quiet. And Christmas is on deck. You just wait and see. Christmas is next up, and it isn't going to be long. Folks, I saw something the other day that I should have suspected it. In fact, I think I did predict it at one time. And that is that NPR, National Review, suddenly trashing Biden's socialism and praising Trump's policies. So, whoa. After the election. So I said to myself, what is going on? And I think it is rather obvious. In fact, I remember now I did predict this. If you've noticed, the Hunter Biden news is out there now, and the Rasputin guy at Twitter, did you hear about this? He admitted under oath yesterday that it was a mistake to block the New York Post story. For 6 weeks, they discovered this now. Of course they admit this now, after the election is over. Yeah, the Rasputin guy says, we kind of looked at this and we think that, we shouldn't. And I want to know if the guy was under oath when he first gave the reason for doing it. Because he said the New York Post was in trafficking in news that couldn't be proved, and it was whatever excuse they gave. So what is the reason now for allowing the Hunter Biden news to flow freely? Well, here's the answer to it. Joe Biden is a placeholder. He has always been a placeholder. I've never seen I don't know how many presidents I've not bothered to count I've been alive for, but I don't recall any president ever having so little personal attachment to his voters. I don't encounter anybody on the left who is thrilled that Biden is going to be president. They are thrilled that they don't think Trump is going to be. But the guy that nobody cares about, the guy in whom very few have any kind of personal attachment, investment, or bond, is the guy who won the election, they think. It just doesn't make any sense. So because that attachment's not there, because there is no deep bond, and because Biden is a placeholder for what? What have I said? I have said what the left wants is something they could not achieve. They could never have run Kamala Harris as the nominee. And she couldn't have won the nomination on her own, by the way. She tried. Do you know that Kami got out of the race before the first votes were even cast? She did. She couldn't raise any money. And so she got out. She tried to raise money, but she couldn't. And she got out before the first votes were cast. That is how undesirable she was. That is how unelectable, unnominatable she was in the Democrat Party. But now, look, the Democrats want somebody like her in the White House. They want a radical leftist in the White House, but they could never get one elected. So what was the one thing standing in their way? The election. The fact that the person they really want to be president, or somebody who's like what they want to be president, would never win an election in this country. Couldn't happen. So what do? They go for the old war horse, the guy that's been there 47 years, a standard issue, as typical as you could prototype one, Washington inside the Beltway politician named Joe Biden. They run him as the nominee, anti-Trump, but they don't run him. They keep him in the basement. And then they run all these election games instead. That's where they spent the get out the vote money. They didn't get out the vote. They spent their money rigging the election in places that they targeted and knew they would have to. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. And so Biden's elected. But Biden wasn't elected. He hasn't been elected yet. He hasn't been certified. If anything, it's all about Trump. So now, however, as far as they're concerned, and I don't think they're taking this recount seriously, they'd better. Let me tell you something. Do you think Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, look at me. Do you think Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell want to do a replay of Geraldo's vault? I mean, there is no way. You remember what that was? Geraldo claimed to have exclusive rights to bulldoze Al Capone's vault. Supposedly, when Capone left, little history lesson here, when Alphonse, that's what they called him when he was near death because he'd lost his mind. He had syphilis out there. And it went untreated. And in Alcatraz. And that's one of the reasons why they let him go. That and other things. So Alphonse and the family buy some palatial estate down near Miami. And Alphonse continues to deteriorate mentally, physically, in any number of ways. And there was a rumor that when Alphonse had his mind and his wits, that he hid a bunch of money. And trinkets, stuff like would be in a King Tut vault. Alphonse had hidden this stuff away, but it was just a rumor, and nobody knew where precisely it was. They kept trying to get Alphonse to tell them where it was, but he'd lost his mind. He didn't know what they were asking him. He didn't know what he was saying when he responded. But they firmly, his buddies, I mean, his mafia buddies and some of the government really thought that there was massive amounts of cash and money that Al Capone had sealed away somewhere. Well, Geraldo thought he found out where it was. And it was in a secret room somewhere. You have to blow it up to get in there. So they did a TV special on it. I think Tribune, I'm not sure, I think Tribune Media did the special. And it was all promoted for weeks and weeks, and we called Al Capone's Vault. And the day came where they were going to go in there and blow it up and find Al Capone's hidden away fortune and trinkets and stuff like from the King Tut tomb. So Geraldo goes in there, they blow everything up, and there's smoke, and there's sparks, and there's just all kinds of, and they clear the air, and there's not a thing in there but a bunch of rat turds and other things. Nothing else. A TV special that did nothing but reveal rat turds and other kinds of refuse in this room. Do you think Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood want to effectively end up doing Geraldo's vault? There's no way that they're going to have this end up that way. It wouldn't be. So anyway, do you think the Democrats are going to wait however many years for Joe Biden to say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore? They're not going to wait. That's why the Hunter Biden news is starting to flow freely now. There's going to be, all of a sudden, a newfound reason to look into Joe Biden and Hunter and the Chi-Coms, because they want Kamala in there tomorrow.